You have no idea how I'm going to start this episode, do you? Well, guess what? Neither do I! Readers, for today's lesson, we're going to focus on the difference of two things: representation and tokenism. And in order for us to learn the difference between the two, we're going back to Star Trek, the fandom in which the only thing I truly know is that Q is a fucking dick. On July 7, 2016, John Cho, the current portrayer of Hikaru Sulu, made famous by Japanese-American actor and LGBT activist George Takei, revealed in an interview with the Herald Sun that in the newly altered timeline, the character will be revealed to be gay as a nod to Takei himself. And once more, we are presented with an example of irony. Because the main individual disappointed with the change is George Takei himself. A situation I found too familiar with a previous video I did 2 weeks ago, and I'm beginning to sense a pattern. According to an interview he had with The Hollywood Reporter, Takei was concerned that despite the new timeline the film series takes place in, the homage was too much of a twist in regards to what Star Trek creator Gene Roddenberry had originally envisioned for the character, despite his advocacy for equality on all fronts in the past. Now, the decision to make new movieverse Sulu gay as a nod to George Takei was the decision of the creator of the story, co-writer, and the one who's currently portraying Scotty in the current set of movies. I'm of course talking about Simon, I'm the guy who got you into watching British comedies while you were in college, Pegg, who, according to an interview he had with The Guardian a day later, respectfully disagreed with Takei's opinion on the character. Now, before I go on with this, I just want to establish that because I'm not necessarily a fan of Star Trek nor a member of the fandom, outside of the facts that I'm presenting in this video, my opinions regarding who's right and who's wrong in this situation don't mean shit. But that doesn't mean I haven't seen this happen in fandoms that I am a part of. Specifically in regards to DC Comics' decision to make Alan Scott, the original Green Lantern, a member of the LGBT community upon his reintroduction into the universe via New 52. And just like the Sulu situation, alliteration is so much better than rhyme. There were those who claimed that the change was a welcome form of representation, while others said it was basically tokenism. And what made me think whether or not this was happening in regards to Sulu was how Pegg decided to explain himself in the same interview. We could have introduced a new gay character, but he or she would have been primarily defined by their sexuality, seen as quote-unquote the gay character, rather than simply for who they are, and isn't that tokenism? Well, yeah, if you do it wrong. And you did. Because that's the definition of tokenism, readers. The practice of making only a perfunctory or symbolic effort to do a particular thing, especially by recruiting a small number of people from underrepresented groups in order to give the appearance of sexual or racial equality within a workforce. Now, looking at this situation from textbook standards, the decision to make Sulu gay was initially because Pegg wanted to pay homage to Takei, regardless of how he chose to explain himself. So now, despite Sulu's actions in Star Trek Beyond and the other two movies, Pegg is in fact pegging the character on the tokenism board. Because I can list 4 examples from DC Comics that have LGBT characters and don't qualify for the guidelines of tokenism. Bunker from Teen Titans, My Girl Batwoman, and both Midnighter and Apollo from Stormwatch. All these characters, while proud that they are LGBT, are written in their respective stories with that aspect about them only being a part of who they are, as opposed to being all that they are, from the fucking get-go. But no, readers, I'm not using DC as an example of what proper representation is this time around. I'm using Marvel Comics. Because apparently I didn't learn my lesson from the last 3 times I had their asses in the spotlight. In this case, I'm talking about 15-year-old Riri Williams taking Tony Stark's place as Iron Man after Brian Michael Bendis' Civil War II. Those are words I thought I'd never say in the same sentence. Now, there's already a good amount of positive feedback regarding the character, especially from the MCU Iron Man himself, Robert Downey Jr. But the one thing the majority of those excited for her really want is for a black female writer on board when she eventually takes over the Iron Man books. And honestly, Marvel has been keeping a good track record with that. Kamala Khan, a Pakistani-American teenage Inhuman who's the new Miss Marvel, was co-created by Marvel director Sana Amanat and Muslim-American writer G. Willow Wilson, and the latter is writing her solo series. Ta-Nehisi Coates and Brian Stelfreeze are respectfully writing and drawing the current run of the Black Panther comic. And Totally Awesome Hulk's creative team consists of all Asian American creators, including writer Greg Pak and artist Frank Cho. So it is definitely possible and extremely likely that Marvel will get a creative team of African American women when Riri is ready to take over the Iron Man books, despite being created by Bendis. Because just because Stephen Moffat wrote Captain Jack Harkness's first story in Doctor Who does not mean that he created the character. Just saying. And it's with Marvel's introduction of Riri Williams and the previous changes it's made to its own status quo that we have the proper definition of representation. The description or portrayal of someone or something in a particular way or as being of a certain nature. And with that, we must also acknowledge that representation trumps tokenism tremendously. Alliteration again. Now, I know what you're thinking. But LeRon, why doesn't tokenism hold the same merit as representation? Isn't tokenism the same thing but just on a smaller scale? Well, readers, in order for you to understand the difference, let's go back to the two examples that I gave and the terms that they are associated with. The reason why the change in Sulu's sexuality can be identified as tokenism is because Simon Pegg went about the change with minimal effort. Anybody can make a change to a certain character in order to pay homage to a certain person or thing, especially if a minority is reflected specifically in that change. Why do you think Token Black was called Token Black in South Park? No, I'm not going to follow that up with a fucking joke. That example should be enough for you. The reason why Marvel's decision regarding the lot of their characters can be identified as representation, on the other hand, is because they actively went out of their way to portray them in different lights on all fronts, both on and off the pages of comics. And I can't believe I'm about to reference this fucker, but like Deadpool, they gave a maximum effort to portray both their characters and their company in an innovative and forward-thinking way. And you wanna know what else did that? The new Ghostbusters movie. Because on August 25th, 2015, Melissa McCarthy tweeted the proof of true representation present on that exact same set. So now that you have this info under your belt, readers, I must ask you, what do you prefer? Representation or tokenism? As a matter of fact, that's your homework assignment for the day. Write in the comments section below either what you prefer between the two, or why you think either or are necessary. And yes, that last bit does imply that I will be reviewing the new Ghostbusters movie this Friday. So you might as well subscribe to my channel so that you can be the first to claim that I am being paid to ruin your childhood. But until then, this is Readus 101. Class dismissed.